Welcome back to the Forum by Voltage. I was always joined by my co-host Robert Lee McLaughlin,
Glad to be here.
former pastor, present influencer, just overall great man of God. And he has enlightened me about a very interesting topic today.
Yeah, I mean, and it was so interesting that you decided to invite me and introduce me as a former pastor, and I'm going to use some of that experience as we start this
Mm,
topic. And
I don't know where it came from, but
yeah, yeah,
it just
it was
inspired.
there,
I don't.
right?
It was there.
On my way
Yeah.
here, God told me what example I was going to use to kind of bring in, just to really like shed light on the complexities of lust.
Ooh.
And years ago,
Mm,
before I, became a senior pastor and ventured off and started my own ministry, I grew up in the church, of course, and then I went to different churches. But as I was a young adult, let's say probably around 19, 20 years old, I started, joining this one ministry that I really loved, and I was called, I knew I
mm,
was called to ministry. So I'm like, okay, I need to go and approach the bishop, or I need to approach somebody and
yeah.
talk to them. And so I talk to him. We have a meeting. We get there. We meet. And one thing he tells me is he goes, Brother Robert, he goes, you remind me of myself when I was your age.
Oh.
And he said one thing that I had a big challenge with
Mm,
at that age that I never knew was going to be challenging for him
mm,
was what he called. And at the time, I felt like I was still too young to understand what
mm.
he was saying, but he called it youthful lust.
Ooh, and did that kind of encourage you or discourage you?
It, like I said, at the time, it kind of went over my head
Mm,
because I was youthful.
yeah.
So I'm not understanding what youthful lust is until years have passed by.
Mm,
Now, further into my adulthood, I can see that wow, there is a such thing as youthful lust. I was 19 years old. You're in the realm. You're at the spotlight.
mm,
You have people coming into the church. You're preaching that Sunday. You're preaching at that service, or you're running the service, and you're a part of so many different auxiliaries, and you never know that even in the church, I know it's supposed to be a safe place, but even in there, you have those temptations,
yeah.
because there's some people in the church that you want to hang out with them outside the church.
Yeah.
So I never really understood what he meant by that youthful lust. And coming into like today's time,
Yeah.
I realized that yes, that is something that during our youth, and even if you're in ministry and out of ministry, during that time, I find that that's the years where people are losing their virginities.
Well, did you find that you were more aware of what he meant, or I guess the revelation that came upon you after being married? Or would you say before then you came into the understanding of what youthful lust was, how it was really impacting your life?
I would say after marriage is a big part, because speaking on that church realm, one thing the church does teach and push a lot is to be married,
Yeah.
and because it does provide that sovereignty and that sacredness covenant between you guys and God. But what it doesn't really emphasize on is that yes, marriage does keep you holy. Marriage does separate you and bring you apart from the people in the world that are just kind of freebeing it, if you will. But what
Giving it out for
marriage
the free.
exactly, but what marriage doesn't do is
Yeah.
rid you of youthful lust.
hundred
And
percent it
and
does.
and and, and to get and exactly, and to
Yeah.
to like get rid of youthful lust, you have to become mature.
Yeah.
And it was after marriage that I understood what he was saying about youthful lust, because yes, lust does continue. You
Mm,
see what I'm saying? Like, if I'm seeking for lust, that's a different thing as a
yeah.
married man. But as a married man, let's say if I walk outside and I go to because I want to go check the mail, or if I am at the grocery
No,
store
you want to
and
check the
some,
females what you want to
get
get.
out of here. So like I want to check the mail, or I'm at the grocery store. If I walk in the grocery store and I see something that just walks past me, and I acknowledge in my head like,
Yeah.
wow,
Yeah.
wow, that took me for a ride, that took me for a spin.
Hmm.
That is not considered lust.
Okay.
You see what I'm saying? But me going further and rubbernecking the situation,
Mm,
or what most guys do, let me wait till she walks by me so I can just see her. You know what I mean? Instead of rubbernecking, she's
yeah.
gonna pass by my, walkway right now, and then I'll just do the turnaround, or I can do the look.
So you're not in control of your initial thought, is what you're
Correct.
saying, but you are in control of your second thought and your first action. Your
Correct.
second thought being, the imagination of what could be,
Correct.
and then your first action being like how you said, and some people do, some people don't, but doing the double take.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
And here's why.
Okay.
Why you saying with initial and then your furthermore your response and your actions
Because you didn't
afterwards.
drum up that first
No,
thought.
I didn't. It
Yeah.
was a reaction.
Hmm.
Now, after that, it becomes a
To reality.
response,
Hmm.
So I'm not responding to it, I'm reacting to it.
Yeah.
So I can flee, which means I could have just kept walking down a different
Hmm.
aisle, but I can respond to it if I want to by actively going and following down that aisle because I want to see what I want to see for as long as I can see it.
Hmm.
And what God says, a lot of people say, this is why I think it's important, when it comes to lust, even pornography, all these sins, it isn't about that initial desire, that initial want that most of us are going to have.
Yeah.
It's more so, whereas the Bible talks about adulterers and things of that nature, the Bible doesn't say adultery will not get you into the kingdom. He says adulterers. That when someone's an
A
adulterer,
pattern of.
that means that they have become, that is their character. You are an adulterer.
Yeah.
Someone may know how to play the piano, but there's
Mhm.
other people who are piano players. You
Yeah.
see what I'm saying? So it's the identity, if you
Yeah.
will.
Like when the Bible says that like the liar and the thief have no place in the kingdom, it's what they're actually saying is that yeah, that's the label, that's the how you said you actually made a great point, the identity, the liar and the thief, not the person who has lied or who has stole. It's
Correct.
the person who identifies as the liar
Correct.
and the thief,
Who continues to do
which
so.
is funny about this whole thing of identity because what is the world's biggest, hugest agenda right now?
It's the
Of
identities
what you
and what you
identify as.
identify as.
Yeah.
And complete side topic, I was just out
I
running
don't know why.
errands
It just like
because this
it
right here,
it
and I said
connects.
this the other day to
Yeah.
my wife. I said I need to talk to Myron about this on the forum
Uh-oh.
because you're talking about identity. Complete side point. We'll get back onto it, but this kind of tags into the video that we were gonna release last week. You know what I
Okay.
mean? And sorry about that, guys. We did have some
Yeah.
technical difficulties, but we got that under works.
Mhm.
But yeah, we it lines into that. We were talking a little about men not having a say
Right.
and how the society is trying to really get rid of the men, and God honors men. So
100%.
that makes sense as to why society is trying to get rid of the one thing God honors, the head. If I destroy the head, I can destroy everything else. You
Yeah.
decapitate a person, what do they say? You got 10 minutes and you're dead within that
Yeah.
time frame. So I get rid of the head, I can eventually get rid of everything else. With identity, I understand what the world is moving towards. You got gender identity, what you identify as, and all that. I understand that. I might even go as far as saying I'll support it with respect,
Mhm.
but not with action or
Yeah. Like how we talked about that
inclusiveness.
first thought is that's what that person's doing,
Correct.
but my second thought or action would be to either a support or b deny or like say hey you can't do that. It's like but I don't have to participate in that second action or that's I mean that first action or that second thought. I could just acknowledge respectfully without chasing it with a hateful comment or whatever because we don't
Correct.
have to hate to not be in direct support of whatever, right?
Correct. And pretty much how I responded in this situation. When I was running errands, I stopped at a spot because I needed to use the restroom. So I went and I think it was Wingstop. I went in a Wingstop and I need to use the restroom. So I asked the guy. He goes, "Hey, you can order?" I was like, "No, can I just use your restroom?" He's like, "Yeah, man." I was like, "Do I need a code or anything?" He's like, "No, go for it." I
Yeah.
went in. Boom. I'm walking towards the back. There's two doors.
Mm.
The first door I see says women.
Yeah.
So I say, okay, the next one's gonna say man.
You would hope. What did it say? What did it say? I'm scared. What did it say? Family restroom? I'm guessing
No,
family because I'll
you
see
would think it would say family
because
restroom.
you walk into a JC Penney's, they don't always have a men's. It'll say family restroom or it'll say female restroom.
Gender neutral.
Gender neutral. I should have known.
So I, as a man,
Yeah.
cannot. Women still get their own restroom,
Yeah.
but I'm included in what they consider gender neutral. We can't get a gender neutral, and a men's restroom.
I really wish we could run it back on last week's topic because now I'm so fueled by the fire of like I just off of this topic. I'm so fueled by the fire. So look, they don't want to the world doesn't want to take away the identity of women. They want to
No.
take away the identity of men.
Yes.
They want to men there's because there's not I don't see too much stuff of like a woman identifying as a man. Like there's not a lot of pushback on that, I guess you could
Mm-mm.
say, and there's not even a lot of stories that are really coming out of that.
Mm-mm.
all the stories, for example, like I mentioned to you previously about like I want to have a like guest like Riley Gaines on a probably an interview channel that we could start or whatever.
Mhm.
But it's like Riley Gaines because she's so adamantly against her competitors who are men identifying as women who come in and just annihilate the game because they are used to operating at a such different level. I'm not
Mhm.
gonna say higher level, but at a, such a different level respectively
Mhm.
in swimming, and that they this man identifying as a woman just came in and won all the beans, right? And she's just like, hey, look, we work really hard to be able to compete at this level in our sport, and somebody comes in with a different level of experience, and obviously she's like, just mathematics. He's gonna he she we whatever they're doing is gonna win, right?
It's not fair.
And it's not fair because you're not stripping the identity of women in a way. It's like, oh yeah, women, you could do whatever you want. It's like, but for some reason, there's this huge push of, well, men don't have only have the right to identify as something other than a man,
Other than a man,
other
yeah.
than a man. And it's
Crazy.
it's crazy. Like it's crazy. Like you literally like kind of open my eyes right now. Is that I'm like, wait, yeah, like the only identity that is not okay to have is as a man,
Yeah.
is as a strong-willed, as a powerful, as a figurehead,
Yeah.
as a man.
Yeah.
It's the only identity. That's the only identity that's coming into question.
Mhm.
And what did we just talk about pretty much what the Bible says about identity? Is that your identity will essentially prohibit you from entering the kingdom of heaven.
Yeah.
Your identity alone.
Yeah. What you
You know?
continue in, what you identify as.
Yeah.
And speaking with continuum, like I know we probably have a lot of viewers that might be in continuum as even maybe some of the people in the studio today. Um, Pornography.
Oh, yes.
What lust when it comes to that, and then when it comes to pornography, I guess you say being a tool,
Mm,
a destructive tool for
yeah.
some marriages, and even for individual single men. And I mean, give me some, like, what do you think, Myron? Like, what do you
I
think as far as like single men and
no.
married men, like how
I
that's destructive?
I'm glad that you pivoted us back to that. I think that pornography is one of the most destructive tools, not of the enemy, because I think we give the enemy too much credit. I love what one gentleman, if I find it, I'll link it in like the shorts or reels or whatever. One gentleman, he said that the devil is one entity.
Mm-hmm.
The devil is not Christ. We don't give
Mm-hmm.
the devil that power.
No.
Right? Jesus has the ultimate power, right? The Lord has the ultimate power. Why would we identify the devil as having the ultimate omnipotent, all know? He's not omnipotent. He's not all
Mm-mm.
knowing.
Mm-mm.
He is one entity. He could only be tempting one individual at one given time. But what does he have? He has a legion of followers, of fallen angels, of familiar spirits, of principalities, whatever the case may be. But he is only one entity. So to say that you be tempted of the devil is almost being saying that you be tempted of God, because
Mm-hmm.
God would never be tempting you, and the devil is not omnipotent. He is not Christ. So how could he tempt you when he is not ever present?
Mm-hmm.
So when you say that, oh, the devil tempted, the devil caused me to do it, the devil pushed me to do it, to view that video, to push stuff. No, when I decided to witness pornography, when I decided to look up, Riley Reed and her stepdad, like I decided to make that decision. I made that decision because the idea that was planted in my mind was more overwhelming than the truth that I knew. The idea of satisfying that gratification in that moment was greater than the long-standing truth that I have.
And would you say that all that idea that you're talking about comes from the influence, any influence?
Any
And I
influence,
feel like people don't realize how they can be influenced. Like those
100%.
portals are
Yeah,
very important from the things we watch on TV, the things that we watch even here on YouTube, on the
yeah.
YouTube platform, the kind of music we listen to, the kind of conversations we have when we're surrounded by the people we choose to call our friends.
Mm,
All of that is influential. And depending on what type of influence you're receiving, you may be acting like, oh, I'm not peer pressured or nothing comes to me. You may be acting like
yeah.
that, but it's in there.
Because I'm going to give you an example. The conversations that we have, if I'm talking to you and we're talking about We're talking about, well, like my wife, we've been kind of struggling, like we haven't really been seeing eye to eye. And I'm just like, oh yeah, dude, well, I get through that, dude. I just, I'm gonna make a joke to you. I'm gonna say, well, I get through that, dude. Like, look, I just handle it myself, all right?
Yeah, yeah,
Like,
yeah,
I'm gonna
yeah,
make
yeah.
that joke to you,
Because
right?
we have that rapport.
If we have that rapport and
Correct.
that we have that rapport, it's like, I'm gonna make that joke. But if you don't come from the understanding that I'm either making a joke, or because that could even be detrimental.
Mm-hmm.
If you're just a friend and you're just like, wow, like you're gonna go home thinking like, wait, does Myron do that? Like,
Mm-hmm.
Myron's a married man.
Mm-hmm.
He has children.
Mm-hmm.
He operates in a ministry. He also, he volunteers his time to operate in the things of the Lord.
Mm-hmm.
He has a calling in the kingdom.
Mm-hmm.
You having almost the identical pathway of like, I also have a calling. I also have a this. I also have a
Mm-hmm.
that. The same responsibilities
Mm-hmm.
essentially. Um, you might be influenced from somebody who's in Christ
Correct.
to even be like, well, it's fine. Like, he's not burning openly in front of me. Like, I mean, my wife's just been really on my case, and
Mm-hmm.
I can't take it. So I'm just gonna go to the car and and then and put Apple Music, put Apple Play on, and so just so I have surround sound, and then I'm just gonna search a little video, and I'm like, dude, like, well, that's a nice evening for yourself you've created. Like, I
Very
have
nice
I have the
evening.
car lotion, the car sanitizer, some napkins, like,
The
it's
dude
the
wipes.
dude wipes. I have everything set. I got my little trash can in the corner from Amazon. Um, but you could be influenced to do that. You could be influenced to do that without the understanding, or even just not even without the understanding, but thinking for a second that the people that you think also have the same revelation as you have, also know God to be real, the word to be true, and you're just like, wow, like subconsciously you're like, I'll be fine.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's what we think. Well, like
Mm-hmm.
subconsciously I'll be fine.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so dangerous. Like,
Yeah.
just like I said, not only the things that you do, but even the people around you that claim. So if I'm not encouraging you, like if we have that kind of humor, if we do that, that I also make the point, and even for for Kevin and our other friends and everybody
Mm-hmm.
who we know that has this kind of revelation,
Mm-hmm.
I will make the point to say it's like, well, you shouldn't do that, despite the fact that we'll have joke around or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Just in our when we were having dinner, we're having lunch, it's like I was like, yeah, we should not be doing that.
Correct.
I'm not chastising anybody, I'm not calling anybody out, I'm just saying, I know I shouldn't be doing that, and whatever I do past that point either makes me a hypocrite or it makes me holy.
Mm-hmm.
And that's my battle, to fight.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But you should know that you're not fighting this battle alone, and every man around you is fighting the same battle. But like Robert said, you can't control your first thought. You can't control the first thought about thinking. It's like because it's gonna pop into your head.
Mm-hmm.
The search criteria, the keywords you're gonna put into Pornhub, they're gonna pop into your head. You're gonna be like locked in. This is what I'm gonna look up.
Mm-hmm.
You can, however, control your reaction
Mm-hmm.
and your second thought
Correct. And your influence.
and your influence.
What you allow to come in, that's only going to foster, like we talked about, whatever a man thinks, that's who he is.
That's
So
who he is.
whatever you bring in, that's what's fostering and, boiling and, if you will, crock potting
Mhm.
on the inside of you. And eventually it's got to come out,
Yeah.
because like they say, what goes in comes out. We eat, we use
Yeah.
the restroom,
My
we
wife told,
drink, we
yeah.
have the restroom. So there's other things are coming in.
Yeah.
There's more portals than just this mouth where we put food and drink.
Yeah.
There's other portals where we're receiving things, the ears, the eyes, all that stuff. So it's like,
Yeah.
it's got to come out eventually.
I had to chastise myself this week. Just it's related, but it's not exact. But I had to chastise myself earlier this week because my wife was like, she used my own line against me, which is from the abundance of the heart speaketh the mouth, because I
Yes.
use that on her, and I'm
Yeah.
just like, from the abundance of the heart speaketh the mouth. So you're saying that thing, you're not realizing how destructive the thing that you're saying is.
Mm-hmm.
Because you don't know who around you. Like we talked about with, like, if I make a joke about self pleasure,
Correct.
and you don't know how to take that, or you're not spiritually mature enough to not be influenced by it, I just destroyed you.
Correct.
I just became a stumbling block.
Correct.
And my own wife had to tell me, she's like, from the abundance of the heart speaketh the mouth. And she was kind of playful, but at the same time, I was like, oh my God, dude. Like, I'm just saying things willy-nilly out here. I was speaking out of like frustration, and I was just like in traffic kind of thing, like, or
What,
whatever.
you're still getting mad at traffic?
No, I'm not getting mad at traffic. I was just saying, like,
You're almost 30.
I know.
You're gonna
No,
get
but
high blood pressure. You out
I
here
probably have
still-
high cholesterol or
Yes,
something.
You're out here
Like,
still getting
it's gonna be
upset.
one of these podcasts. I'm just gonna drop dead.
Don't say that.
No,
I
yeah, I
rebuke
shouldn't. Yeah, I
that.
rebuke that in
I
the name of
rebuke
Jesus.
that
Yeah,
right here and right
100%.
now. And if you're
No,
bold enough to put something in this comment
yeah,
section, type "I
I
rebuke
rebuke
Myron
Myron
dropping
Stephen Watts
dead
Jr.,
on set."
who lives at 1 2 no
Okay.
social security number. No. But no, she had to tell me. She's like, "Hey, from the abundance of the heart, speaking the mouth." And I was like, "Oh, right." I'm like, I'm thinking I'm playing around. I'm thinking I'm saying something that I'm just like, man, like if these people would just. I'm like, no. I'm like, I'm just showing how unconsciously I am actually upset.
Mhm.
Like I'm actually having a reaction. Like we talked about, it's like I
Mhm.
can't control the first thought, which is like, man, that guy, right?
Mhm.
But
Mhm.
I can control what I speak. And I can
Mhm.
control my second reaction,
Mhm.
which is to like think further about it or to get upset.
Mhm.
So I'm like, I didn't think further about it, get upset, but I did speak on it. And
Now,
I'm just
how do
like,
you change that though?
how do you change that?
Like really, how do you like?
You
Because
stop.
but
But you
how?
stop.
You can't just
You just
stop.
stop. I already
You
did.
no no no
After my wife said that, I stopped.
you can't just
I
stop.
just stopped.
No 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 no
From now to the end of time, I'm just gonna be done.
no.
I'm gonna
That doesn't
stop.
work
And
that
then
way.
it does work.
It doesn't work
Just
that way.
stop being
Come
so
on.
weak.
No no no
Like,
no
just be
no
stronger.
no no
Like, be better.
no.
Like,
No, like
last longer. Like,
how do you literally stop from doing
that's a great
things that
question.
we know
That's a great question.
are just characteristically
Can
not a
I
good look for
can I
us?
tell you the real answer?
Yes,
Can I
please.
tell you the real answer? The way you stop is also the way that you started. The way that you started was by receiving and intaking 1,000 things that got you to that point.
Mm-hmm.
So now you got to flip the switch the other way. You got to start intaking things that like what I spoke to you guys. I spoke to you guys in faith the last time we were in lunch.
Mm-hmm.
I spoke to Kevin in faith the last time we were in lunch. He said, "I have a problem." And I said, "Well, the B solution, you need to exercise.
Mm-hmm.
You need to get your body moving because you know what you're not doing, you're stagnant.
Mm-hmm.
So why would I continue to do the same thing, expect different results?
Mm-hmm.
How do I get rid of that? How do I get away from those temptations, the way that I feel, the way that I act? I need to do different actions.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm in traffic and I'm constantly coming up against adversity, then maybe I need to get out of the fast lane. Maybe I need to go to the slow lane so I can
Mm-hmm.
stop being around that environment.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm stagnant and I feel lethargic and I'm just like, why do I keep overeating? You want to know why? Because you don't get up and you don't move. Because you're going to eat a lot less when you move more.
Mm-hmm.
And you're going to eat a lot different when you move more.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, well, why am I bored all the time? Because you're not doing anything. So
Mm-hmm.
go do something.
Yes.
So the
Flip the
answer,
script.
flip the script. Like the answer is so simple, but of course the to begin is hard.
Mm.
To begin is hard. It's hard to begin to exercise. It's hard to begin to change the mentality that you have when it comes to women in relationships if that's a struggle that you face. It's hard to say that, oh, well, instead of jerking off right now, I'm going to pray. It's an almost impossible once you've made that decision. I'll tell you, Robert, how hard it is.